Okay, good morning everybody. Today's video I'm going to just be briefly talking about if the CVT transmission on these Subarus are actually good for towing. Currently right now I have a 2022 Outback I actually use for work. If anybody's seen some other videos, you know I use it for work. But this is a 2022 with about 55,000 miles on it now. Behind me is my small Coleman BH 1400 Rubicon trailer. The weight of this trailer is about 1,900 pounds with a tongue weight of 297. So in the last video we talked about putting trailer hitch on, putting the 7-way plug on to be able to tow this. The 2.5 liter engine for the Subaru's towing capacity is 2,700 pounds, but I wanted to quickly just briefly talk to you about the towing experience that I had with it. And if anybody knows that I really hate YouTube ads, so I'm going to try and make these videos as quick as possible. It's not going to be too much of a video of looking around at things. It's going to be mostly just me talking. So just hang in there for a minute because the information I have to tell you is actually pretty important and can actually save you. So the first thing is I drove this to Indiana with the camper, and it's about 250-mile drive. And the first thing I noticed is that I was getting, I left it in drive. And if anybody knows, you do have the manual mode option that you can sit there and flip over to use the paddle shifters and everything, and that's what I recommend doing. So essentially, going down to Indiana in drive was putting me at 12 miles per gallon and literally putting my oil temperature about 235 degrees. Now, why would it do that? Well, the CVT transmission was fluctuating so much back and forth to try and read the road, try and read a hill, trying to guesstimate what my speed needed to be able to get up this hill. It was just consistently shifting back and forth, jumping back and forth to its different gears. Or I guess it doesn't really have gears, so it's just or set modes, I guess. I don't really know what to call it. So when I got to Indiana, I noticed the oil temperature was 235 degrees and my miles per gallon was about 12. On my way back, I decided to try something different, and this is what I highly recommend doing if you have a Subaru or any vehicle with a CVT transmission. The CVT transmission has 8 preset gears that you can flip over and use in the manual mode. Now when you're towing, you never drive for speed. You always want to drive towards your RPMs. And for an example, I don't need to be going up a hill pulling this camper at 65 miles per hour. Okay, so I'm going to be driving to my RPMs. I want to keep my RPMs between 2,000 and 3,000 RPMs for the most optimal fuel mileage and just longevity of like my oil and life of other fluids. That's how you should be towing. You should be towing by driving to your RPMs, not your speed limit. So that's going to save you on oil, especially with the CVT transmission. Now, when I came back from Indiana, I left it in manual mode, used the paddle shifters, and left it in 7th gear, and was going about 65 all the way back. Now, what did I get with that? I got 18.5 miles per gallon, and my oil temperature never went over 212. So now what I'm talking about with manual mode is that you can flip over into the manual mode and use your paddle shifters to shift manually. Always drive to your RPMs, never drive to your speed. Now, some other cool things I'm going to recommend doing to increase, if you are towing with your Subaru, is to increase the rigidity of your body or handling and control, is to upgrade a few other parts, and I'm actually going to show you. What we did on the back is we put the Rally Tech overload suspension on the back. Now this is a really easy upgrade you guys can do. You just have to separate the lower control arm, which is 3 bolts, one for your sway bar, one for the strut itself, and one that actually holds the lower control arm to this actual hub and unit. If you separate that, you're able to get the strut separated from the lower section of the control arm. And if you go into the back of the car, there's 2 bolts. Once you peel back your carpeting where your wheel well is, and you undo those 2 bolts, and your strut will drop. get a spring compression kit. You can compress those springs, undo the top of your strut, slide the spring off, put the new ones on. It took me 45 minutes to do this one side. Next thing I recommend doing is actually getting a strut stabilizer bar. This will just help you with control and steering in the long run. I don't really recommend putting the overload suspension on the front of the car because I think the front of the car itself is too light, and I would like to see the force of the strut or that overload suspension being pushing down into the ground, into the wheels. But I feel like the front of the car is too light when towing, and I feel like it's just actually going to lift the front of the car up. So I'm not going to really do that to the front. I'm going to experiment with it. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I'd like to put it on there. But the back is about a ½ inch higher, and I actually think it looks pretty good. The next thing I recommend doing is getting an oil cooler kit. This is a 15-row oil cooler kit that I'm going to be using. So the oil cooler that we got here is a 15-row cooler. It's a universal kit. The one thing that is not going to work with the Subarus is the sandwich plate. The sandwich plate is not going to work. It's obviously a universal kit. This sandwich plate is complete garbage. It's not recommended because you have to take off the oil filter, put this on, but there's a drip pan that goes around our filters, and I'll show you that here in a second. Also got a lot of reviews from people that were saying, oh, this blew my motor, this did this. You have to sit there and add extra oil to your car to accommodate the volume of this intercooler or radiator and your hoses. So hoses aren't terrible condition. It's not bad. I might go for a braided stainless steel, but that's not horrible. So you have to add extra oil to accommodate the volume of space for this and your hoses, or else you're going to drain your car completely. All the oil is going to be in here. It's going to be sitting in the front of the car, and you will blow your motor. The other issue that people are making, that I'm hearing and reading in reviews, is that they keep saying that they have oil spray, and the oil spray is from not pipe taping your fittings. You have to pipe tape and seal your fittings. And what that means is that you have to sit there and put pipe tape on your threads to prevent oil from passing through the fittings. So you're going to wrap that pipe tape around these threads. Same with all the fittings and anything that's connecting to it. I believe, yeah, the inlet ports right here for your lines, that needs to be pipe taped, or else you're going to have that oil spray going everywhere. So now we're going to move on to the sandwich plate and what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are at the front of the car. Here is that oil filter I was talking about, and it does have your little splash bowl, collection bowl here. That is going to be a problem. So obviously with the oil filter off, this being on, it's not going to be able to clear this gap. So you just have to order, and they make them. You can order a special adapter that will come up, and then it will have a thermostat in it for 200 degrees is what I ordered, and I'll do another video on installing this. And then you could put your sandwich plate that it comes with, not this one, this is trash, this makes no sense. Put the sandwich plate on it, and then you can run your lines to your oil cooler. Best way I think I'm going to do it is I'm going to follow these AC lines to the front of the grill, and that's where my oil cooler is going to be, roughly right around in there where I have space. Front bumper will come off, and I'll put it there, and that's where this is going to be. So this will help tremendously with towing, but these are the small upgrades I did to kind of help with towing with just a 4-cylinder naturally aspirated 2.5 Subaru. So I hope this helps, guys.